Spider-Man is one of the most beloved superheroes of all comics. He's smart, he's quippy, and he's always juggling a million problems at once. But here's a really crazy idea. What if instead of swinging through all of New York, Spidey was running around Gotham as a Robin? Yeah, I know, as Batman's sidekick, a little weird, but hear me out. Now, obviously, that might seem insane at first. I mean, Peter Parker taking orders from Batman or whatever, but trust me, when you actively toss it around a little bit, it really makes a lot of sense, and the idea of Spider-Man being a perfect and almost amazing Robin would honestly be true. But what's going on, my comic junkies? Welcome back to Let's Talk Comics, where I usually just decide to break down all things comic books, heroes, and any wild ideas my mind ends up creating, and this just happens to be one of them. If you guys do enjoy this video, make sure, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more videos like this. But with all that said and done, let's continue on with the video. So, while the setup for this doesn't really need to be explained just because of the fact that I can explain why he would be an amazing Robin in the first place, I still want to explain how I think this would end up going down and why I think this would work just off the premise alone. Firstly, Peter Parker already fits all of the prior requirements to becoming a Robin, i.e., specifically being an orphan, and we know how Bruce loves his orphans. Both of Peter's parents are already dead. He is raised by his aunt, but if we're just talking about that already, that is already a perfect start to becoming a Robin. That is easily the quickest way to becoming a Robin, and he already has some similar traits to a good other Robin, so that makes it a lot easier. Even if we don't want to have this being a kid Peter, we could easily just use this as an early to mid-career Peter, college-era brain, seasoned street-level experience, temporarily operating in Gotham as a Robin or whatever. I honestly see him respecting Bruce's no-kill ethic, and while Peter does not have a no-kill rule no matter what anybody tells me, if he needs to, he will. And we've already seen that example when he has to deal with Kingpin. So I see there being a very good chance that he would, one, get along with Batman, and also get along with Red Hood, because he understands that sometimes things need to get done the way that Red Hood does them. But yeah, obviously when we bring Spider-Man into the DC universe, and specifically Gotham in general, and talking about why he would be an amazing Robin, we're not going to bring over any of his cosmic level gear and any of his more overpoweredly busted suits, because even him and Batman both have pretty strong suits depending on the occasion. So he's just working with a more basic suit, and obviously with a more stealth first mission profile. That way, we're going to be able to measure him up against basically every classic Robin pillar, specifically the agility, the detective work, the team discipline, the restraint, the hope, and obviously the stealth that I've already mentioned. But yeah, so continuing on, let's actively start talking about why he fits the Robin persona and why he would make a very good Robin. Starting off by talking about just the skill match that he already has comparatively to other Robins. Firstly, we have acrobatics, and obviously Spidey's moveset, vaults, flips, wall scales, literally maps perfectly to being Robin's aerial style, specifically obviously like Dick Grayson and a couple other Robins that still have decent agility and acrobatics in general. And at Spider Sense, it really equals just near, honestly, perfect danger reads in melee and everything else that's just going to help him out so tremendously in something like this. And also the fact that Spider-Man has basically the same tactical empathy as almost all of the other Robins would really help out this case so much more. Specifically the fact that, obviously I've already said, they have no-kill rules for the most part, so Peter's default to de-escalate and protect bystanders would easily help him just like push the point across that he would be a very good fit as a Robin, because he is the definition of ground level heroism. In the Marvel universe already, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is very akin to a symbol of hope and a symbol of peace and a symbol of actually just being a very good hero. While J. Jonah Jameson and whatever will have anybody believe that Spider-Man is a menace, almost everyone knows that Peter Parker is a very good hero. Everyone trusts and understands that he is doing his best and he is actually truly doing this for wanting to help people. And that's very much similar to Batman and the way that no matter what the fact that he wants to help people, people aren't going to really trust him specifically due to the kind of person that he is. And obviously Spider-Man and Bruce are very different, but it still kind of works the same way for them. And continuing on, the fact that both Batman, Spider-Man, and a good portion of almost every Robin has some forensic science and just some nerd in them would really just set this home so much more, because Peter Parker is quite possibly the biggest nerd in terms of anything like this. We know the kind of character that he is, building his own web fluid, doing all of the things that basically just make him a nerd in general. And when it comes to forensic science, obviously he's still going to be a nerd also there, because of the fact that Robin's usually obviously assist Batman in detective work, and Peter is a chemistry whiz first and a lab rat also. Give him a crime scene and a microcentrifuge and he'll hand Bruce answers before sunrise. He is extremely tactical in the mind, also just being extremely smart, just because, he's Peter. But he would very well fit into the atmosphere of being a Robin just due to the fact that he's easily able to kind of still be a contender in terms of actively helping around in the kind of understanding of everything's scope. Like understanding of the crime field, understanding of being able to how to figure things out, and just being able to do everything that he needs to do in general. And just, also the fact that he would very well perfectly mesh along with everybody, because as Bruce is, as every other Robin is, he is extremely resilient under pressure. Spidey already pulls punches to avoid killing. That is a very, discipline to his core for, a Robin DNA. But also the fact that we have seen Spider-Man get screwed over horrendously in comics. Spider-Man cannot have a singular good day. That is just not feasibly possible. He was always going through something bad. He is always getting done dirty in some way. So we know how mentally strong his mind is and how strong he is in terms of being able to just deal with whatever life throws at him and just completely surpass it no matter what. But moving on, let's talk about what Batman could teach Peter as he is a Robin. And obviously, Batman, in my opinion, would be a very good mentor for somebody like Peter just due to the personalities and just the specific abilities that Batman already has that could very well work into upping Peter's arsenal and upping his abilities as a hero in general. But let's actively discuss what I specifically think these are. And first, we know Spider-Man has decent stealth, but we could easily see Batman teaching him a lot more stealth versus the spectacle that he usually does in his own normal way. Obviously, we know Spider-Man is usually one for those quippy style swing lines and just like quippy one lines and all of those things, skyline swings and all of those other things. But with Batman kind of giving him direction and him being a Robin, he'd be more kind of going from the quippy style to more silent entries, shadow angles, and more controlled communication just through everything. We know Spider-Man can easily get that in his bag, and we know he can be silent, he can be very stealthy, and basically maneuver very quietly in general, especially depending on which suit he's wearing. But he would very much be more of a variation of Spider-Man that is just more focused on that silent stealth aspect that would be a lot more scary and a lot more menacing. Because everybody in the comic world knows the one thing you don't want to deal with is a Spider-Man that is silent and is not cracking any jokes. If you deal with that, just automatically just say, I'm going home, quit whatever you're doing and just send yourself to jail, because that might be the easiest and safest method for you. And continuing on, we could easily have like a, case file method that Spider-Man can implement, because we know Bruce's obsession with patterns, victimology, and all of those other things would sharpen Peter's detective prowess by margins, easily getting Peter to be able to actively identify so many different things, possibly creating contingency plans, learning how to do all of those specific things that Batman already is extremely masterful at, and getting Peter's analytical and intelligent mind being able to think of methods like this in so many other ways and kind of work very well in terms of figuring out and configuring different ideas on how to take down villains extremely fast, which he already can do, but on Batman levels of speed. And literally just kind of dropping off, literally just kind of continuing on in that point in a specific way. He could easily learn how to also create psych profiles, interrogations, learning micro expressions, and recognizing trauma loops. Bruce familiarizes with that so well, so he could teach Peters that by extremely large margins. Because we know how, as I've already said, we know how Bruce's mind works. We know the analytical mind. We know how he's always thinking 12, 13 steps ahead and all of that other way. He could easily pass that on to Peter, teaching him things like interrogations, learning other people's micro expressions and kind of getting a feel for what people are actively thinking, recognizing the trauma from other people. Because the main thing that you kind of have to understand between Peter and Bruce is that their villains are honestly very similar for the kind of villains that they are. Specifically, just talking about the fact that when it comes to people like Green Goblin or the Joker, or a good other couple of his villains could be sent over to Arkham, specifically like Green Goblin because the Goblin Serum and everything else like that, and a couple of Peter's other villains could potentially be sent into Arkham, and there's a good basically back and forth between some Arkham, Gotham Batman villains and Spider-Man villains that could basically correlate for each other. So I could easily see Peter learning all of these kind of methods and being able to very well implement it on his own hero, on his own villains. But that's enough talking about what Batman could do for Peter. Let's talk about what Peter could do for the Bat family in general. And Peter is a man of many talents. Let's just say this. So, no matter what you think, Peter could actively help the Bat family out on at least a couple things. Specifically, the fact that he very well could just be a mobile lab on legs. Obviously, the rest of the Bat family are extremely intelligent and have very, very, very quick ways of just grabbing materials that they need out of nowhere. But Peter can whip up adhesives, tracers, antidotes, and web-driven, non-lethal things on the fly, so he could easily just, hey, they need something built. He could just engineer something out of any materials they could probably find relatively laying around just because of that extreme intelligence that he already has. And his spider sense basically acting as an early warning net for him to be able to, automatically just sense the danger coming around. Integrating that with the bat comms, Peter could just basically become a living motion detector for ambushes and sniper raids or whatever, just basically any kind of danger that might be assumably coming that they don't automatically sense in the first place. He could just almost instantaneously know that it's going to be coming soon and just deal with it right there and then. And don't get me wrong, the Bat family have very good danger sense in general, but Peter's is obviously just on a different level. But yeah, also the fact that, one of the main things that he's going to be able to give to the Bat family is something that Dick Grayson can already do, but both of them together are just going to be creating extra levels of it. And that's just basically Peter Parker being a hope injector for the entirety of the Bat family, because, Gotham runs on fear. Robin should always be the counterweight that brings in that optimism, usually. We're not talking about Red Hood or, Damian Wayne, but Peter's compassion would basically keep Bruce from disappearing into the mission. We know that's what Dick does. We know that's what basically all of the Robins do to kind of keep Bruce from tipping over the edge and letting him still have like an anchor to being more morally human and everything else. So he could easily be that hope for the rest of the Bat family and a good hope for Gotham in general, especially due to the fact that I already think that him and Dick Grayson would truly be best friends and would get along so spectacularly well that it is truly hilarious. But he could just do so much for this family in general, and that it's just almost insane not to talk about. But taking a step away from the Bat family and moving to the other side of the field, specifically all of the villains that he would have to be dealing with he was in Gotham, we could easily just run down a quick Gotham gauntlet and just do the matchups on how I think they would go and just the specific scenarios that very well could happen with Peter being a Robin or just Peter being in the Gotham universe in general. And starting off, somebody like Scarecrow. Spider Sense would obviously just be ringing with Scarecrow being around in the first place, and basically would help with the surprise gas attacks, and Peter's entire intelligent mind would probably be able to build fear toxin counter agents very easily overnight once he gets a sample of fear toxin, which shouldn't be hard to grab because of the fact that his Gotham you're going to find somewhere. And moving on to Mr. Freeze, obviously this could be a little more annoying just due to the fact that Web conducts cold poorly. So he would most likely to have to create aerogel web foam to insulate hostages and jam freeze vents or whatever, just basically help him out dealing with Mr. Freeze. And the Riddler, that's not really even a problem. Peter's puzzle brain plus Bruce's pattern obsession would just basically speedrun clue hunts in any specific metric. And somebody like Bane, firstly, Peter is dealing with Bane and not really much of a problem depending on how much venom that he has inside of his system. But no matter what, people like Rhino and other people that Peter has to deal with on a normal occasion will easily surpass Bane in terms of strength. So I'm not going to be even saying that Bane's going to be too strong for somebody like Peter to handle. So there would be some, basically Peter sensing, like telegraphing grapples, mixing leverage judo, low center trips, and all these other things to kind of impact webbing to jam the venom tubes and deal with any kind of thing that Bane's going to be trying to throw at him. But then we have the man of the hour, the Joker. And this one would be a very interesting person for Peter to have to deal with, just due to the fact that Peter is the complete opposite of Bruce on any normal occasion. Bruce is quiet, calm, collected, and usually doesn't interact with a lot of Joker's more flamboyant personas. But Peter will happily, on any normal occasion, just being like as regular Peter, will just be going back and forth with the Joker, making jokes, making quips, basically pulling a Terry McGinnis and actively interacting with the Joker and making full-on annoyances towards the Joker just to get him pissed off so much more. And obviously, as I've already said, Peter has extreme empathy and will protect his hostages, so that Robin training that could possibly get would just help deal with Joker in any specific method, but Peter could deal with the Joker fairly well even without the Robin training, so we don't really have to worry about that in general. But yeah, with all that said, the last thing that I want to talk about is what I think the character dynamics would be between Peter and the rest of the Bat family. And starting off with Bruce and Peter, I think this would be a very stoic teacher and a very big prodigy on Peter's end. Their friction, jokes versus silence, and all of the personas, like all of the personalities that they have between each other would very well mesh, and it could be very much of a just basically Bruce having to deal with all three of his current Robins like Nightwing, Tim Drake, Jason, and honestly even add Damian into the occasion sometimes. Basically putting them all into one character and having Bruce just say, here you go, throw it at a wall, and basically it sticks. So this would be a very interesting dynamic to be just thinking about in general. Alfred and Peter would just be pure bliss. Alfred equips Peter, with etiquette and all of that other stuff, quietly adopting him as another wayward, brilliant child. So Alfred would just love Peter. But when it comes to like the Bat siblings, specifically the other Robins, as I already said, Nightwing and Peter, like parkour bros, would just be them. They would easily be best friends, love each other to death, and just basically be traversing around the entirety of Gotham, just doing almost anything willy nilly. Peter and Tim Drake, science twins. They would be in labs, just collabing for days, coming up with any specific thing, just basically working off tech and just working well and meshing together perfectly. Jason would be an interesting dilemma because the philosophical clash between the lethal force option would be interesting, but as I said, Peter doesn't really have a problem with killing if it absolutely becomes necessary because he's been willing to rip Kingpin's entire flesh right off the bone if he needed to. So there wouldn't be much of a problem, and Peter's worked with people like the Punisher, so I don't see them really having very many issues, and there would be some kind of mutual respect between them. And then Damian, they would probably just most likely just get along in general, so I don't see a very big problem there either. But yeah, with all that said and done, Peter would be an interesting Robin to say the least, but he would be a very good, almost very well, perfectly made Robin. Peter as Robin, like Spider-Man as Robin, isn't about downgrading Peter. It's about just focusing on his best traits through the Gotham harsh lens that we know. In the shadows, he'd prove that he's hope incarnate, that hope can be quiet, science can be heroic, and kindness can be tactical. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more videos like this, and if you guys do want to support the channel, maybe consider joining my YouTube membership while you're here. But I hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.